Hello, everybody. Welcome to Ballin with Bill here at Sideline Power. Thanks, Sideline Power, for being our sponsor. I got a fine person here today, fine coach. Known him a while, met him back, well, I knew him when he played in Nebraska, but I met him when he first was coaching at Millard West and had my nephew on the team with Dan McLaughlin. But a good man, a good, very, very good coach in the state of Nebraska, Matt Turman.
Bill,
Welcome to have you here, buddy.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Well, I'm going to let you kind of ask you a basic question I ask everybody. How did you, and I kind of know the answer, but I want you to tell everybody how you got started in football.
Well, that's basically all on my dad, I suppose.
Same with me.
So, growing up in Wahoo, we moved there from David City. He was the head coach at David City Public for a few years.
I did not know that.
And got to Wahoo in 1980, and so I started first grade at the Catholic school there, St. Wenceslas. And the house we moved into was about a block and a half from the high school and about a block and a half from the elementary school.
Oh, wow.
So every day from the time I was in first grade through 8th grade, after school got out, instead of walking home, I just walked to the high school and go to football practice. So I'd go to football practice every single day from first grade until I'm 47. So about every day since then. And, just being around that the whole time and Newman football and my dad, it kind of just was in my blood. So it's just, growing up, that's what I did.
I gotcha. That's kind of a fun growing up there.
Yeah.
You don't have to walk and stuff. Mom doesn't pick you up and drive you.
Right. There was, I'm sure dads would have some stories about me not doing what I'm supposed to at football practice when I was supposed to be the student manager, from the, trying to catch frogs in the little creek by the practice field to,
Right.
putting pennies on the railroad tracks that run right by the football field, the game field at Newman. So I'm sure I was doing some things I wasn't supposed to, but I did absorb a little football when I was young. I guess,
When you're
too.
still young, watching you. Now, are you the oldest?
I have an older sister.
Okay.
And then my brother, who teaches at Millard West and is helping me coach now at Skutt. And I have 3 younger sisters, so there were 6 of us.
6 of you.
Four sisters and a brother.
Okay. So you were the second. So you were the first one to actually hang with Dad and do
I
all this.
was, yeah.
That's kind of cool.
I got most of the attention, I suppose.
Yeah. So tell me about your career, because I know you played football at Newman there and quarterback. So just kind of go over with people how you played and what you did, because you pretty good football player there. Not bad in your time.
Well, I always wish I was a little bigger. I guess I put on weight after my playing days was over, like some of us unfortunately do. But I wasn't real big. Pretty heady football player. Had some speed and pretty accurate when I threw. So I played quarterback and safety for my dad and for 4 years and Bishop Newman. My senior year, we were really good. We got beat in the state semifinals by the eventual state champ, and it was close. Norfolk Catholic beat us.
They won a lot of them, those.
Yeah, they did. So, still kind of a sore spot.
I'm sure, yeah.
When you grew up and I saw my dad around football all the time, and just seeing how hard it was to get to the end, and win a state title, I wanted to be the quarterback for him when he did it. And,
right.
Unfortunately, that didn't happen, so that was kind of a spot, I guess, in my high school career that I wish we could have taken that last step. But he got a couple later on that I was glad I was there to watch.
That's cool. So now, after you finished high school, you went through the process like a lot of us young people do, trying to make a decision to go to college and play football. So what entered all yours to make a decision? What you did?
Well, again, falls on my dad a lot, I guess. So, a lot of the stuff I've done in my life and, the choices I've made, I get advice from him. And, he's still, when I got coaching questions, he's been around the block enough that
That's
I can
neat.
just
Yeah.
give him a call and say, Dad, what do you do in this situation? And so I kind of leaned on him for that. And he played college football at Chadron State.
That's right.
Was a really good quarterback, had some pro tryouts. He wasn't drafted, but was brought into camp, and he's in their football Hall of Fame out in Chadron.
Wow, that's
He
neat.
actually was cool. It was I went out there with him when he was inducted, and he was inducted with Don Beebe, who played for the Bills and stuff. He was in that class, so it was
That's
kinda
cool.
So he told me when I got the chance to walk on at Nebraska that he had always wondered if he could have played or made it at the D1 level. You know, Chadron State's D2, and he said that was always kind of a thought of his. So he said, you know, I would go give it a shot and see what happens, and you know, if you don't like it or find out it's not for you, you know, transferring at that point to a smaller school and going to a Kearney or at that point a UNO or somewhere like that is still a possibility. So,
Right.
you know, and I guess it didn't take a whole lot of persuading either. I was pretty excited at that point with Coach Osborne and Coach Gill and stuff to go give it a shot. So
Very cool.
that was my decision, and I'm glad I made it.
Well, you got a couple rings for it, too.
I did, yeah.
So tell us about your career there.
Well, it was interesting. I originally was recruited not as a quarterback. They basically said I wasn't big enough, you know.
Okay.
And so I originally went into there, and they said I played safety, but I was one of those guys that tackled people just to get them on the ground. I wasn't coming up to to lay the smack down. So I'd get you on the ground, but I wasn't a headhunter.
Yeah.
So I was always kind of an offensive side of the ball guy. And so they actually put me at wide receiver. And
really?
I played wide receiver as my first year there as a redshirt.
Okay.
And
the freshman was a freshman program gone when you got
no, it was still there.
So you played
that was
receiver?
my last year. My freshman year was the last year it was there.
Okay, so you did play receiver for the freshman team.
Yeah. And but no, it was 2 years. I take back, it was 2 years because I played a little bit my redshirt year and then my actual freshman year.
Okay.
Got to play something on that. So I was a receiver, and we were playing Iowa State, and Iowa State ran the triple option.
Right.
Remember Todd Doxson?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, and so he was their quarterback, and they ran a bunch of triple option, and that's what my dad had taught us to do, me to do. That was his offense in high school. And so I remember Coach Osborne called me in, and you know I'm a walk-on freshman that's dead last on the depth chart at wide receiver on a team that doesn't throw a lot. So I'm like, is this a bad meeting you called into? But he just asked me, he's like, do you think you could still run option football, the triple option like you did in high school? I said, yes. And he said, well, I'm going to need you to do that for scout team for Iowa State week. And I did it and got just killed. But I got a nice little plaque that said Scout Team Player of the Week, which basically means you got your butt kicked for a week.
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
But it kind of rekindled the thought that I could play quarterback.
Right.
And, after that season got over, Coach Osborne, we had a couple. Tony Veland had gotten hurt, and he had moved to safety from quarterback. He's from Benson. There was a kid by the name of Ben Roots who came in with Tommy Frazier, and he transferred out.
That's right.
Mike Grant graduated, and so we had this void. It was just kind of dumb luck. And I went in and talked to Coach Osborne again and said, hey, I know we need a quarterback. Is it all right if I tried it? And so I started playing quarterback the spring ball of my freshman year. I played one season. Well, I didn't really play, but I was a receiver. And then I got moved to quarterback, and that's where I got to stay, and it just kind of worked out. So, I remember the first game I ever suited up, we were playing Pacific, and they were not good at that time. And I got to play quite a bit, and so just because it was a blowout. But I remember my first snaps, and first game. I mean, we were beating them pretty bad, so I was in the middle of the fourth quarter, and he called a little hitch to Riley Washington. I still remember he caught a hitch and he spun out of it and scored a touchdown from the 20-yard line. So I threw a touchdown pass, and they ran an option that I made a cut and scored a touchdown on the first game I ever played.
That's pretty cool.
I don't know how many people can say that. So.
Yeah, no, I know it.
And then as time progressed, I was sitting third string. I'd worked my way up to third string my sophomore year, and behind Tommy and Brooke Behringer, and lo and behold, people get hurt, and Tommy has blood clots, and Brooke has a collapsed lung, and I'm starting in a game in a national championship season, and so
I remember when you played at Kansas State.
Yeah, it was K-State and national TV against a ranked team, and
they were ranked that year.
Yeah, they were like 13th, I think, or 14th. I don't remember exactly, and it's just one of those things I tell kids now as a coach that you never know when you're going to get your opportunity,
right?
And so. Unfortunately for me, that was my only chance to start. I was there for 5 years, and it was my only chance to get on the field as a starter. I was hopefully, I was thinking that, my senior year, Tommy and Brooke would graduate, and I was sitting there ready to be the starter. And then, the current head coach, Scott Frost, transfers in from Stanford, and
Right.
I lose that spot to him, and so I'm a backup my senior year. I got to play quite a bit, but
Right,
it was still not, I guess what I hoped for. So
Right.
just through that whole experience, so it's really helped me in my coaching career because I can relate to kids and tell them, I lived that.
Right.
I had the chance and an opportunity when the chance was there to go and perform.
And you did.
And I did. And I also have lived through the fact that, I worked really hard to try and get this spot, and it didn't work out for me. So,
Right.
when the kid comes and says, Coach, why can't I play more? I mean, I can have some empathy there. So,
Right.
And they understand that. So.
Right. That's cool.
Yeah.
So now that you graduated, so I imagine you got your degree in education, correct?
Yep.
So where did you go first when you first graduated as a coach and teacher?
My first year out, I ended up at Millard West, which is
That's where you had met Bobby.
Bobby, and he was a good outside linebacker.
Yeah, he had a pretty good team that year.
Yeah, it was good.
Was that your first year in 01 out there? Or when
Yes.
Okay.
No, it was a little before that. It was a little
99 or something
Yeah,
like that?
99.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, because you would have graduated in 98, yeah.
Yeah, so there was some good teams there. I was there for 4 years, and Dan McLaughlin was the head coach.
Yeah.
And, his son was really good, and, I remember that group of guys, and we made it to the state finals twice and lost twice, and ended up finally getting one, a little bit later.
Yeah,
but
yeah.
So I was there for 4 years, and then I got offered a head coaching job at Valley High School, which is now DC West.
I forgot all about that one. I forget you went to Valley, yeah.
And I went there for 1 year. Had a pretty good season. We were 5-4, I think, and then Skutt opened up, and I interviewed, and been there ever since. So that's been a long time ago.
What did you take? Because you were Dan's a heck of a coach. I've known Dan a long time, and then that was a good staff with all you guys there. Because Lawanji's now a head coach. Kirk Peterson's a head coach.
Yeah.
All you guys are. And you played for Coach O, and Coach and all those great coaches that had at Nebraska all those time. Like Frank Solich, all of them, Turner Gill. So as you molded yourself, and your dad, you grew up in football. You're kind of like Bob and I. You grew up in football because our dad was coaching and a scout. But so, what did you take with you when you first became a head coach at Valley? To start your own program. Now you're the guy, and so what did you do?
Well, I remember talking to my dad about it just because he'd been doing it, and he said, I can't even tell you everything it's going to entail. Yeah, you're just going to have to jump in and tread water for a while.
That's a good way to put it.
And he's right. There's a lot of stuff you don't ever think about. You think of Friday nights and running out and calling plays and being around the kids and that competitive part of it, but there's so much more to it that you have no idea.
Right.
And it's not just the practice planning and the film watching and the game planning and there's ordering knee pads and making sure you have shoelaces and having somebody make sure the camera's charged up, and it's just all this little stuff.
Somebody don't forget to turn on the headsets.
Yeah. So it's just all this little stuff that you don't
Right.
know that's there, and that's not even dealing with discipline issues or parental issues, and there's just so much more to it than just what happens on Friday night. It kind of culminates on Friday night, but there's a lot of stuff that it takes to get there. And so that was part of it. The other part was I had all these grand ideas on what my offense was going to be.
Right.
Because I was going to be the offensive coordinator, and I remember Dad telling me, "Hey, some of the stuff you got in for your linemen is really good if you have, those linemen you had at Nebraska, the pipeline that's, all 5 of them are in the pros now.
Yeah.
When Zach Wiegert and Brendan Stye,
Oh, God, yeah.
Rob Zadicka, Aaron Graham, Joel Wilkes, they're doing these things.
Because they all played in the NFL.
Yeah,
and did well in the NFL.
And now you're asking, your high school athlete to do it. So I had all these ideas. We're going to run that counter tray, and they're going to be out leading, 15 yards down the field for your running back, and then you try to do it with a high school kid, and they just can't do it.
They can't get around that corner. Yeah.
So there was a big learning curve there, just in terms of what you can do and what you can't do, and what you can ask a high school kid to do compared to what I was used to sometimes with the college thing. So.
And you had some pretty good linemen at Millard West when you were there as
There
young
were,
coach.
yeah, exactly. But I still think sometimes you bite off a little more than you can chew at the start. And,
Yeah.
And
I've
it's
done
just
it
a
myself.
learning. It's just a learning curve,
Right.
And that's some of the stuff like my dad said. You just can't until you experience it. You just can't. I can't tell you everything that you're going to have to adjust to and get ready for.
Correct. I agree. I mean, it does. You don't know till you put those shoes on. You walk in that building, really, especially the head guy. It's like you said. You go to an assistant coach. Everything's handled for you. All you got to do is go in and coach your guys, or coordinate your guys. But when you got to go in and set everything up, be sure things run properly, and help all your coaches out, it totally changes.
It was it's a lot of work.
Yeah. So now that you got to Skutt, what did you do? Because I mean, they were kind of fighting and floundering there before you came in, and then what'd you do to kind of get it started up and have the success that you've had for so long?
Well, my first year, we had some grand ideas and some lofty goals, I guess, and my first year we weren't real good. We were 3-6.
Yeah, I remember that.
But the next year, we won our first game against it was Roncalli, and we were going to play week 2. We were going to Elkhorn, and the year before it was flip flopped, and so the year before Elkhorn came in, and we thought we were going to be good in my first year. We had won our first game again. We were 1-0, and Elkhorn came in, and they just they just tortured us, and it wasn't a good. We were in the game for a little bit, and it might be first quarter. It was tied 7-7, and then I think they just started flexing their muscles and just said okay, and they just started
pounding.
Yeah, we're not enough of this finesse stuff. We're just gonna ram it right at you, and we didn't have an answer. And I just remember coming off the field because we just got physically manhandled and beat up, and I don't know, finished 40-7 or something, and. And so our kids, we were going into the next year, and we were 1-0 again, and we went into Elkhorn at Elkhorn, and I think our kids were a little hesitant just because Elkhorn was kind of
at that time they were
and they've always been good. Well, Coach Wortman's going to make them.
There's another guy that's done a great job for a long time.
And so, but I think our kids maybe just. You see that red jersey, and at that time they had 100 guys, 115 guys on their sideline.
This is before they got to other school.
Yeah, and so I think we were kind of intimidated just by the red helmet, But we went in, and things just went our way. The ball bounced our way, and we found ourselves right at the end of the game, and we're winning, and we're up by like 8, and they score right at the end of the game, and we knocked down a pass for the 2-point conversion for them to tie to go to overtime, and we beat them. And it just completely changed like our whole mindset for our kids and the coaches and everybody else. Like, hey, we can do this. Mm-hmm. And we ended up finishing the season 6-3. Right. Made the playoffs. Won our first playoff game in a long time, and got beat we beat Elkhorn again first round actually.
Did you really?
Yeah, two times in the same year.
Poor Coach Wortman nuts.
And then Gretna beat us in the quarters, but it just kind of, I think that first win against Elkhorn kind of jump started everything. Just kind of gave us that, you have to get over that hump, and it was a early hump in that season.
Really?
But it just gave our kids and our players
program,
just a
good
boost of confidence that maybe, hey, if we keep doing what we're doing, we can be good. And so then the next year the same thing happened. We were 6-3 regular season and finished 7-4, got to the quarterfinals. And then my fourth year there, we kind of had a magical run at it. And
did you beat McCook for the state championship that year?
Yeah, it was 6-0 in
right.
the finals. And just kind of like my story with Nebraska and just the ball bouncing your way. I'm good friends with Jeff Gross out at McCook.
Yeah,
we coached in the Shrine Bowl together, and we talk all the time.
I met him when he was young. You know that, don't you?
Oh,
he was assistant for Bob at Hayes.
Okay,
that's when I first got to know Jeff.
Yeah, so he had a super state running back named Brendan Lease who got hurt in the summer. He tore his ACL or something, and then they had another all-state kid who was their quarterback who got hurt like week 2. So they lost 2 all-state kids like early.
Right.
And I mean, if they have those guys, I don't think it's probably ends up in our favor.
Yeah.
And it was just one of those things that the ball kind of bounced our way, and we took advantage of the opportunity when we got it, and so
capitalized on it.
Yeah, it was 6-0 in the finals, and
So when you first started and got your offense, what type of? Because I know you're a triple option guy, and you grew up that in Nebraska. You ran some triple option too. What kind of philosophy when you first started at Skutt, and how has it changed since you've been there so many years offensively as time's moved on?
Well,
the kids have changed.
Yeah,
too.
we have, but we're always going to run that option,
right?
That veer option where we're going to read the end man on the line of scrimmage.
Right.
I took that from my dad, and I think it's a hard concept to defend. If you read it right, it's hard to do. It's hard to account for all three guys.
Right.
So if you got a threat at quarterback, fullback, and I back, it just gives you an advantage. Plus, I always tell people, I think there's a great advantage to not blocking two guys at the point of attack. We're just going to read them, and they can't be right. If that DN comes down the fullback, we pull it, and our quarterback's out around the edge, and we're pitching off the next guy. So a lot of teams put some of their best players at the end, and if you don't have to block them, that's a huge advantage.
Right. Yeah.
So we'll just read him, and if he takes our fullback, we'll pull it. If he steps up the field, we'll give it to him and let him run. And it's been really good for us. So interesting story.
Do you run that out of gun now or not?
A little bit. It doesn't time out quite as well.
Right.
We're doing a few other things out of gun with the read option, but it's not. It's reading the backside end on around and seeing if he's chasing down and pulling our quarterback around the outside. But interesting story. I told the kids, if I don't know what to call, we're running veer. So we call it 23-24 veer, and that's what they know. That's what we do it every single day.
Right.
We do footwork drills. The quarterback's like, we're doing 2-ball drill again. I'm like, every single day. We're doing it for at least 5 minutes every day.
Yeah.
Just step, reach, ride into the line. The kids can probably do it in their sleep.
Right.
Because I tell them that this play needs to be like riding a bike, and they're like, well, what do you mean? And I said, well, when you were little, when you're learning, you had to think about what you were doing.
Right.
I got to get on, I got to push on this foot and then push on this foot and keep my balance. And I said, as you get older, you just jump on a bike and go.
Go, yeah.
And I said, that's what veer has to be. We don't have to think about anything. We just go. And that's what we have got to. And so I kind of got away from that. When we were in the semifinals against Pius in 2005, we have an all-state fullback. He's a great player, maybe one of the best kids I've coached. His name was Ryan Patera. And we had an all-state I-back named Casey Carbolito.
I remember. Yeah,
and those
I know his mother very
were in
well.
The backfield.
Went to college with her.
Okay.
Yeah.
And Pius was aligning in
Right.
this defense that was kind of taking veer away.
that,
They
yeah,
had
yeah.
two guys outside of our D end, and we call that a two-man rule, and it's hard to run veer into. So
Yeah.
we just weren't doing it, and they had basically just by their defensive lineman taken away our best play. And it's 7-7 in the fourth quarter. There's about 8 minutes left. We have the ball about the 50-yard line, and it's like 3rd and 6. And we call timeout, and we come over and we're talking about it and what we're going to do. And my fullback goes, Coach, can we just run veer? And I'm like, Ryan, the way they're lined up, it's tough. He's like, Coach, that's what we do. And that's what's 4 years in. This is what we do.
Mm-hmm.
And I go, okay. And I told my quarterback name is Brandon. I said, Brandon, if they both come hard, it's going to be pull, pitch, quick. Because that's the hard part. If they both come hard, you get that pull, and that second guy comes right at your
Can
quarterback.
knock your mesh out.
Yeah. And you got to get rid of that pitch quick.
Yeah.
And they're like, we can do it, Coach. And I said, okay, run it. We called 24 veer. He pulled the ball. DN came. Guy pitched it real quick to Casey. Casey caught it. Safety took a bad angle, and he went 50 yards for the touchdown, and we won the state semifinals 14-7. And then after the game, one of my assistants go, Coach, we run veer. And ever since then, I'm just like, well, if we don't know what to do, we got to figure out a way to run that play.
Yeah.
So,
What other? I mean, because I know you do. Because I've seen you play. You do other option type stuff. So what have you added in there to make it more
we run
dynamic than you first?
We run a little bit of counter option, maybe not quite as much as the other. We run some trap option where we
like you did in Nebraska. That was a good play with the fullback.
The fullback, we run that short fullback fullback trap off tackle trap, and that's been a really good play for us. And we have the option off of that is we call it a down option. And so those three are mainly the main three, but by far it's veer is the most called play we run.
Gotcha. What do you run passing wise off of it now? Because I
know
know you've changed there and stuff.
Yeah, a little bit. We're doing a little bit more 3-step stuff and drop back stuff. you know, my brother has been with
Oh,
me
he's
now
a
for
spread
2
guy,
years.
yeah.
Oh yeah, he wants to spread it all out and run some jailbreak, and he's slowly pulling me away from some of my more conservative stuff. But I'm a play action guy.
Yeah, I know you've always ran a lot of good play action up
We
there.
we really like the bootleg, and we still run the bootleg that Dan McLaughlin taught me down at Millard West.
Off the veer play, right? Yeah.
Well, that one's off of just a counter.
Okay.
Yeah, just a counter trap. That's probably our most run bootleg. And Seth, my brother, has us running it a bunch of different options off of it, where we have a bunch of different routes, because we were always just running at the same routes, and now we have some different calls to get them into different.
Depending on the coverages.
Yeah, and just some different looks for the defense. So, but bootleg and some veer pass is probably my two favorite.
That's super. Now, how have you adjusted? Because I mean, because you started, kids have changed in the last 15, 20 years when you played and coached all these years. How have you adjusted your style of coaching during this time?
Well, I think part of the situation is kids want to. It's hard to tell kids they can't do other sports, right?
Right.
I'm a big 3-sport guy. I mean, I grew up in a
good.
small school. We've had our best teams. You know, our best team. You know, when we won the state title a couple years ago, and we won it back to back in 18-19 and had that long winning streak. You know, one of our playoff traditions is those guys, when we make the playoffs, they all dye their hair blonde. And that started, I don't know, 10 years ago, and we've done it ever since.
Mm-hmm.
And so our best football teams are when you see those blonde-haired guys on the basketball court a couple weeks after football.
Gotcha.
You know, because they're doing more than one thing.
Right.
You know, when it's you get those kids that know how to compete, and they're doing more than one sport.
Gotcha.
But I also think as a coach, you got to be a little bit flexible. You know, we've had some kids that are big soccer players, but they
Right.
like football. You know, but there's a fall soccer season, and so you know, I've had kickers that come up to me and say, "Coach, I want to play football. I want to be a kicker." We've had an all-state kicker, but he had, you know, club soccer that started at 6:00. Could he leave at 5:30 so he could get to, you know, that soccer match?
Mm-hmm.
You know, and that'd be hard to do maybe a quarterback, but you know, when we're done with special teams and everything, I think coaches, if you can be a little bit more flexible,
Gotcha.
you know, I think just because kids have a you know, a priority, and sometimes that's not football.
Right.
But if you are flexible enough as a coach, you can still get those guys out and they can help you win.
Gotcha. Now let me ask you a question. The other side of the ball, defense.
Mm-hmm.
You went through a couple guys, but you had always a great defense out there, physical, hard playing. Are you still in the 4-man front, or what do you do deep?
Yeah.
Are you still doing the 4-man?
4-4, yeah.
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 So
And
what do you do different now than you? Because the tackling's changed. A lot of things have changed compared to when we played.
Well, we started moving a little bit from a 4-4 to a 4-3 with 2 high safety.
Gotcha.
Just because we're seeing so much more
spread
spread.
stuff, yeah.
And so that's a little bit of a difference. But I don't know. I don't know if I'll ever go to an odd front with a 3-man front. And
Yeah.
I like those 4 guys up there, and I still am of the thought that you have to stop the run first.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. So you know, we're going to do that first, and I tell we spend more time on. My defensive coaches won't probably agree, but we spend more time. When I do the practice plan, there's more time dedicated to defense every day than offense. You know, they always give me a hard time saying that I monopolize the offensive time, but I always have to show them, look it, and then they say, "Well, coach, that's what you have on paper. That's not what you're actually doing at practice."
It sounds like a defensive coach whining.
But you know, I tell our kids, you know, that the guys that are playing both ways a lot, and
You still do that quite a bit.
yeah, we do. You know, I don't know if our school's big enough to completely platoon. You know, and so when we have guys like Barrett leaving trip this year or something, they, you know, he's a super state type kid that it's just hard to keep him off the field. But we tell them over and over again that we believe that defense is where we need you, and so you'll take your rest on offense. So we do a lot more substitutions on the offensive side of the ball than we do on the defensive side of the ball, and so. You know, we've kind of hung our hat on the defense, and
Well, you had some great defenses.
and
Some
Well,
great players too that came
think-
out of that thing. I mean, you have.
Yeah, we have. We've been blessed.
You've always
so
been physical too.
our kids play hard, so that's a good thing. So.
And I think a lot of reason why you're physical too is because you run the ball hard on offense. And I think that helps make your defense because you got to stop it in practice.
Yeah, we do.
And your defensive coaches got to fire up and try to stop. And I think that's part of making you physical.
You know, there's something to be said about I think about just that downhill running. You know, I'm not a big. I tell a lot of my running backs and stuff, you're a one cut kid.
Right.
You got one cut and you're going.
You look at the
north-south.
NFL, they don't. And Alabama's a good example. It's one cup and that guy's gone.
You know, and North Dakota State's the same way.
Right.
You know, they have so much success there, and it's just we're bringing it at you and we're coming at you fast.
And they're going to make the one move off the cut. Yeah.
And I like those plays that I don't like the slow developing plays. You know, I think sometimes in high school it's beneficial to we like our linemen to get into you and
right.
get the running back up and by you as fast as we can. You know,
Right.
instead of the slow developing where we got to see what develops and then pick a spot to go. So
Right.
yeah, so I'm kind of a downhill now guy. And
Yeah,
so,
I mean, you look at some of the successful in all levels, that's what they are.
yeah.
So, you know, it's hard to be successful for a lot of years like you've done. And you have. I tip my hat off to you. It's hard to do. What do you think has been the thing that's made you guys so successful all these years at Skutt?
Well, I mean,
I know you got your humble pie, but just your thought.
a lot of it is we've had a lot of continuity in the coaching staff.
That's good.
which I think is a big thing.
Right.
You know, and sometimes, you know, I've pilfered some from the Millard schools. They've had coaches that have retired, and I go and
Bring them in.
ask them to help out, and that's
Yeah.
been a really good thing for us. And you know, I got some good young guys that played for me, and that kind of have bought into the way we do things.
Mm-hmm.
And then I think, you know, I've been blessed with a very good group of kids, and that's the biggest thing. And the kids believe in what we do, and that's a big thing.
Yeah.
You know, they believe in the veer. We run the veer. This
Right.
is what we do, Coach. They
You ran
believe
it
in
ever
the,
since I've known you.
yeah. We believe in the 4-4. They
Right.
don't want to do anything else because this is what we do.
Yeah.
You know, we come after punts where they know that we're going to put pressure when they punt, and we're bringing people every single time.
Right.
And so I think when the kids believe in it and they have kind of the same message from the coaching staff, because we've had the same guys there for a long time,
Yeah.
it just helps, you know. And so, but like I said, a lot of that too, we just had some really good kids that have came through. And
You've had some nice kids going and play
and-
college ball.
and parent support and stuff. So, you know, and then I think, you know, I've matured a little too. And
Oh yeah. I mean, you change all the time. Adjust, I'm sure.
There's a story with the kids part of it. You know, a few years ago we had that great game, just a couple years ago in the state championship against Scotts Bluff. That, you know, we stopped a 2-point conversion at the end and we had to run out the clock. And I remember I listened to Nick Saban, and he was talking about how in big situations, as a coach, sometimes a coach feels like I got to outsmart him, I got to trick him. And he goes he said, you need to know as a coach, in big situations, think of players, don't think of plays. You know, just give the ball to your best kid and get out of the way.
And they do that quite
You know,
well.
and yeah. And so to me, I was like, okay, at the end of that, I took that to heart. And, you know, we had Tyson Gordon, who ends up being, was the athlete of the year that year at quarterback.
Mm-hmm.
And we just went to, we went to empty formation.
You went to empty?
Yeah, Seth had got it in, and we went to empty, and we just snapped it to Tyson, and he could read to which side he wanted to run, to which side they had less defenders.
Right.
And we ran the clock out and didn't do anything. Didn't even have another back in the backfield. Snap it to him and let him go. Snap it to him, let him go until he got a first down and knelt the clock out. So
Wow.
it's just one of those things, you know. I like that. You think of players, don't think of plays.
Yeah. Now, what's Tyson doing now?
Tyson is at North Dakota State, doing well. So we'll see if he gets to play a little bit.
Quarterback, he's up there.
No, he's playing safety.
He's playing. They got him up there
yeah.
safety.
So.
They got that kid on the west side going up there. So
Yep.
they
And I guess they just got in a big transfer, a 4-star guy that transferred in from Virginia Tech or something. That,
no kidding.
well, when you got your last two of your last 3 quarterbacks have been in the
NFL now,
yeah,
in the
well,
league.
three in a row, because Easton Stick was 2 from prep.
That's
They
right.
went Carson Wentz, Easton Stick, and their quarterback now they says is going to probably be a top 10 guy. So, you know,
That's pretty good for a 1AA program.
Yeah.
We used to play in Division II.
I know.
Pretty dang good. Well, I appreciate your time today, Coach.
Yeah, that was fun. That was fun.
You know
I
how
love
we-
talking football.
Yeah, I love talking to you. A lot of stories there, but we're going to finish up with a good old hush.
Okay,
You know,
I got
this means you want food or money for Skutt High School.
food or money.
Food or
Both.
money.
Both would be great.
Hush, 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 hush. See you next week.